Okay, recording is in progress. Sam, can you do the roll call or you want me to do it?
Roll call for the February 10th, 2025 Prairie View Ranch Water Board meeting. Jesse McCoppin.
Here.
Marcy. No Marcy?
I'm here. Here.
Marcy is here. Mia Hammaker.
Here.
Randy Moore.
Here.
And Sam is here. That concludes all 5 board members.
Awesome. From the community, we've got Mary Bates, Ryan Norton, Sheila Brown, and I think that's it. And then, of course, Annette Bybee from our legal counsel. So, Mary Samara, you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Yeah, I'll turn my camera on for a second. Hello, everyone. I know I've met some on this call. My name is Mary Samar. I'm a funding navigator manager with the Environmental Policy Innovation Center. It's a national environmental nonprofit, and we are a water technical assistance provider for the country. We are contracted with the EPA to utilize bipartisan infrastructure law funding to support our water technical assistance. And we offer the service to water utilities, water providers like yourself, free of charge to the utility, I like to always say. And what we bring to the table is funding for discrete tasks and activities, project management. We like to say that we're like trusted advisors. We try to offer some guidance and, really whatever is needed for capital improvement projects. So that's the long and short. I can pause there before going into more, but that's me. I'm actually located in Philadelphia, and we're a remote organization, but I do have a colleague who's in Littleton, Colorado. And so if there is ever an opportunity to do in person for a need, Steve can always come, or I can fly out and come visit if that happens down the line. So good to meet everybody.
Thank you. Yeah, if we can get something arranged for an in-person meeting someday, that would be really nice.
Yeah.
Online is convenient, but the personal touch is good every once in a while.
Yeah, absolutely. That's always great.
Well, so I'm going to go back to the agenda real quick, and really our discussion with you, Mary, is the primary item. So I guess without further ado, let's kind of get started on that.
Yeah, I actually have an update for you all too. So just to back it up, like to introduce how we got added into this discussion and into this work, because we are contracted with the EPA, we received a request through the EPA for technical assistance work. And it sounds like what is needed. I know I've listened in on some of the working group meetings with CDPHE and kind of going over your compliance ordinance, your enforcement ordinance. And I know that there are a lot of moving parts with kind of moving towards your funding application and your compliance. But what we've identified as the piece that EPIC can support with is the financial audits, or whatever those financial analyses, those financial services that you will need. And I know that's needed for the compliance, for the TMF, for the ordinance, for the Office of State Auditors, and for the funding application. There are audit requirements. And so what that looks like is whenever we get to that place, the way we work is we actually contract directly with the firm. So we can assist with identifying a firm, which I know maybe we'll talk more about that. That could be a little tricky when we, trying to find a firm that is kind of specialized in doing this type of work and is kind of able to jump in and navigate some of the challenges that you all have. But that's the kind of work that we help do, that footwork and look for firms. We solicit bids. And then we contract directly and pay directly to the firm. So that would be just that very discrete financial auditing work that we can do for you all. And all of those words, we tried to, I see Jesse has the letter of intent. We tried to just kind of condense all of that into like a pretty broad and flexible and adaptable scope of work in our letter of intent here, which is kind of the order of business for today. This is the first step, really. We went through screening, which is really our first step. And then now that we decided we're a good fit, we enter into this letter of intent. It's not a contractual agreement, but it is just like an understanding among both parties that this is the work that we plan on doing, really focused on this financial auditing work. A little point I'll make, and I think I clarified this before, we're not at all associated with any regulatory body. We are not the EPA, we're not CDPHE, we're not here in any kind of like enforcement capacity. This is really just assistance to get you all where you need to go. So I guess I'll ask if you have any questions about the letter of intent and what we've kind of laid out as EPIC's part of this.
Sorry, I was double muted there. I didn't have any specific questions.
Okay. Yeah, I think of course, like if this can be changed if some of the language, everything in the LOI is pretty standard language that's the same, except if you scroll all the way to the top, I think it's like the second paragraph. That's like the unique one to you all. So everything else is just kind of like our legal language. But that's just kind of like the specifics on the audits. So
yeah, that's the feeling I got from it. So
yeah, exactly. We include all of that, language, but really that's the meat of it right there. I did want to mention, I saw your resolution here. So anyway, whenever it comes time, we would need the board signature on this. It looks like you need the board signature on your resolution as well. There's just like a slight thing here. We're not necessarily consulting firm. You might want to change that to nonprofit because we are not a private company. We are, act in that realm of the nonprofit space. Just for total accuracy.
yeah,
it's kind of specific, but and then I can share with you all what I learned from DOLA, if you like. So when we last talked, or at your last working group meeting, is this an appropriate time to go into that?
Sure.
Okay. When we last talked at your last working group meeting, and CDPHE was there sharing the ins and outs of the funding application, if you recall, it's really what I gathered from that. For that grant piece, you don't have any audit needs or requirements, but it's when you apply to the SRF for a loan, you'll need to prove that financial capacity and meet the requirements of the state audit law. So I asked that very specific question. If the state auditor allows for exemptions, and I asked that based on that conversation you're having with the state auditor, does DOLA, which DOLA is, they mentioned there's the three agencies, DOLA, the CDPHE, and then the third is the Water and Power District, Colorado Water and Power District. So like they administer the SRF grants together, and they each do a different piece of the process, as if it's not confusing enough. So Aaron put me in touch with the representative at DOLA who did your financial analysis and confirmed that you would just need to fulfill whatever the state auditor requires. So if the state auditor allows for exemptions for all of those years from 2019 through 2024, that will suffice for the SRF application. Which,
that's really good news.
it's really good news. I thought the same thing. I was like, that is great, because what that leaves us with, as far as the need is, and tell me if I have this right, Jesse, there are 3 years that a long form exemption application is required. And those long forms need to be done by a CPA. And then 2 years, you can do a short form that does not need to be done by a CPA.
Yep. And 2021 may be short form compatible. I'm not quite sure yet, but 2019, 2020, almost certainly.
Okay. And then potentially, so 21, 22, 23. Okay. So 3 or 4 years of the long form application. So that's what I'm viewing as our scope of work for soliciting bids for the CPA. I think, I mean, because I was trying to consider everything, state auditors, you know, the compliance, the TMF compliance with CDPHE, and now with the funding application, it sounds like if the you know, OSA accepts exemptions, I know you're just applying for them. Hopefully they would accept the exemptions. I think that should cover everything as far as financial audit goes.
Awesome. That would be really good.
Yeah. I did want to ask this though, like, what challenges would I try to assume the CPA might, you know, come across with getting the records? I really wanted to kind of think through and talk through, like, if we start asking for a CPA, like, how are they going to go about getting the records, and what do you think about that aspect?
So for anything after September 2021, that shouldn't be a problem.
Okay.
What we have for 2019 and 2020 and the first part of 21 before we took over is basically a draft of a 2020 application for exemption, but it shouldn't be on the short form, and there's other issues with it. So yeah, mostly what we would be looking for is the raw data that would have been used to produce 2019, 2020, and 2021. We've got basically the output, but not the raw data.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Okay, it does. So, and those are the years that you need the long form done. So 19, 20, and potentially 21. So I wonder how do you think what do you think the best way to go about that would be? Do you think this is something where I would need to kind of run this past the CPA and ask them, bring them the form and say, what do you need in order to complete this?
Yeah, that's the big question for me is, yes, none of us have ever gone through, one of these before, so I'm not sure what type of information and how far back, if they're doing 2019, do they also need 2018 raw data?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really up in the air, because as long as you stay on track and continue, getting your application or your exemptions granted every year, it's pretty cut and dried and straightforward. And most people with a calculator should be able to do basic books like that. But once you get behind, I have no idea what a CPA is actually going to need.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay. So I guess my task will be then to take the long form and bring this to a couple of CPAs and start asking these questions.
Yep, I think that's probably best. And maybe, yeah, I can provide you with a couple prior years audits.
Okay.
And any other information that I can find that's tied to those audits, but it's going to be pretty sparse as far as old records are concerned.
Okay. Yeah, if you can send me everything you have, the more probably the better. And then I'm going to just start throw out a wide net and, just start looking. I don't know if this is going to be, how difficult it'll be to find somebody to do this or how straightforward it'll be. I did want to ask though, you mentioned you were in contact with over 30 firms at one point.
Yeah, I got pretty much, two standard answers. One is you probably wouldn't be able to afford it. And the other is, this is too complicated for us and it's not something we want to take on. With
Okay.
the tertiary answer, the third most common answer was simply, we've got way more clients than we can handle already.
Okay. Do you happen to have a list of everybody? Did you keep a list of all the ones you contacted?
I didn't, but it's a pretty significant majority of the list that the OSA provided. So if I can find an old email with that list, then I can try to cross off the ones that I know for sure, at least.
Okay. That would be really helpful if you're able to do that. I know that you've put a lot of work into it already, but yeah, that would be perfect. And then all of the information from the audits. And then do you think that you're needing, well, have you circled back with OSA to like actually make this confirmation, or do we have the answers that we need from them at this point?
I think the answer from Crystal Dorsey is about as clear as any answer I've gotten from them over the past 4 years. So let's take that and run with it.
Yeah, sounds good. And that's why, yeah, I wanted to like write that and like email to DOLA and like make sure it's like documented. Like this, what do you need full audits? Do we need to go beyond that and actually produce audits? The reason I asked is because if you all are going in the direction or need to take out a loan for any reason, they use the audits to determine like the financial capacity or capability for repayment. So that's why I was like trying to ask that specific question, like, will an exemption fulfill that requirement? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
And I think, once the OSA, the default is all special districts have to do audits. But then there's another statute that says, unless you're below this dollar threshold, then you can apply for an exemption. And as far as I know, the exemption is for all intents and purposes equivalent to an audit for those to which it's been granted.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense then. Okay. I'm learning about all of these laws as I go along as well. So I really appreciate you kind of like reiterating what you've learned as well. But yeah, it sounds like that's the case. We have like a financial expert on our team too. So everything I learn, I bring back to him. I get his expertise, I bring it back. So, okay, with that, I think that covers everything. I know you all are doing a lot of other work. Are you meeting with Kira in person on Wednesday?
Haven't met with her in person yet. Let's see, I think our next one is also online.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if they were coming to town this coming week.
No, not that I know of. I don't see anything on our calendar anyway, but I'll touch base with Kira just to make sure I haven't missed something. Okay. But our normally scheduled check-in for coaching session is next Tuesday, the 18th at 6. And then I'm not sure if she's going to be on. There's also a call at 4 p.m. our time on Thursday with the actual compliance and enforcement folks to do a status update on that aspect of things.
Okay, interesting. Well, that's cool. That's good. Okay. So you said the 18th is the next coaching meeting?
Yeah.
Okay. And then did you all wind up doing the questions? Have any questions to give to for the grant application?
No, actually, I went through it a couple times and didn't have any questions that hadn't already been answered in the previous session that they did. So what they had published, covered the concerns that I had. So cool. I've actually gotten a head start and opened up all the attachments that would be required for the application and did as much of them as I could, just kind of off the top of my head. So hopefully that'll save some time with Kira and we can focus more on the meat and potatoes of it on Tuesday.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, great. It sounds like you're on top of things. That's great. I just wanted to check in on that. It sounds like you all have that aspect covered. We're always here for backup if there are any resources, anything that we can assist with, but I know you all have been working towards this for a long time. So, but yeah, we're here to fill in gaps if is there a need for any of that.
Awesome.
And then my last question is, have you all thought again about engaging with Morgan County and when the time to do that would be?
So yeah, the Quality Water District, we still kind of have an open dialogue going with them. our subdivision has been on their agenda, not this, yeah, or sorry, yeah, it was this most recent meeting. They had an annual retreat meeting, kind of a 2-day event, and our subdivision itself was on their agenda for both of the days. So I'm not sure what they talked about. The minutes haven't been approved yet, but I don't think they were able to talk about the actual preliminary engineering analysis for that meeting because it had only been published a couple days before the meeting actually was scheduled.
Mhm.
So I do need to circle back with the manager of quality. His name is Kent Flager, and I did send him an email just a couple days ago with some updates and the funding review letter from CDPHE saying when can we circle back and talk about this stuff again. He responded back saying he was on vacation, so I think he came back today and probably getting caught up on email and stuff, but I'll touch base with him again soon.
Okay, so you sent them the funding analysis. Okay, that's a good way to re-engage with having that, the PER and then the funding document that CDPHE provided. And the reason I ask is because the plan is just to move forward with the grant application without very firm confirmation from Quality Water?
Yeah, we still, I mean, there's a whole bunch of details that need to be worked out, but the first step is they have drafted an intergovernmental agreement that basically where our district is authorizing their district to serve all properties within our boundaries. And that was kind of the first roadblock. So it was nice that their attorney had drafted that IGA. Now it's on our end pending legal review.
Okay.
And I think that's where once we've got something to come back to Quality Water and say we're ready to sign the IGA, or no, this needs to be adjusted, or what have you. So I think that's
right.
We're getting really close to the point where it's time to re-engage with them again. We've already had several meetings with them, but this will be one of the more we're ready to move forward type meetings.
Yeah, especially with it's in March, that deadline for the application. It's like a good deadline to kind of add urgency, like push it forward. Like we actually have something that we need a deadline to meet, right?
Yep, and that was kind of the tone of the email that I sent to him with the attachments and everything. Is we've got deadlines. This is kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity. The BIL's up for reauthorization by Congress in 2026, so we want to get whatever funding we can now, just in case it's not there anymore.
Yeah, very good point. Exactly. Okay, cool. Well, I guess I'll just say if you would, and Kira, I know you all are, if there's anything that we can offer in assistance as far as preparing anything for your communications with them, if you're doing presentation or anything that would be helpful that we can help provide. I'll mention that my senior manager, Steve, who's in Littleton, he is an engineer and he's been in the water infrastructure world for a long time. So he brings a lot of technical knowledge and background. We all kind of have our skill set. So just let you know that we have a resource of that nature that could bring some knowledge or expertise into the conversation if you find it would be helpful.
Cool. Yeah, I think it probably will be.
Yeah. We've talked about this a lot. We've kind of just been thinking about it and talking through it. And so, open conversation if that comes down the line. The other question I had was about meeting with the engineering firm who did your PER. And I don't know if that's necessary right now, but again, as Steve and I were having these conversations, he wanted me to just ask and maybe make that connection, kind of get your permission, like when potentially if it could be helpful in these conversations for us to have a discussion with Forsgren.
Yeah, I think pretty much any time that we want to bring them in, we can.
Okay, sounds good. And since we got the PER, we were both reading over it today as well. So maybe we'll put together some questions from that beforehand. And then whenever it kind of aligns to have that meeting too.
Okay.
Cool. Well, Any questions for me?
I don't. Annette, anything from legal side?
We just have been talking about making sure that your board members are all legit, getting those two that need to be sworn in and bonded, and the need to adopt a budget, and that Jeff's reaching out to Greg Edel over at DOLA for technical assistance for you all. I think those were the main updates that we had.
Cool. Any questions about us engaging with Epic?
From me, or are you
Yeah.
asking? Not really. I looked over the email, but I haven't really talked to Jeff about it yet. So not
Okay.
offhand.
I think that's all I've got.
Yeah, Annette, if there are any questions about the LOI, feel free to send them over. And then whenever it's time for you all to vote and sign off on it, we'll get that on file. But I'll start looking at the, CPA stuff in the meantime. As far as the budget work, I mean, is that something that you all have taken care of? I know you have to get your board signed in, but do you need any assistance with the budget stuff or?
At this point, I don't think so. Annette, what do you think?
I don't know. I know that Jeff just said that there was a need to adopt one and then you needed to have a public hearing. Linda said she was working on a motion to adopt a budget. So
Yeah.
I haven't seen that yet. But as once we look that over, if that's something that you want to look at and then decide whether you need help from Mary, that would be a good point to decide.
Okay. Yeah, Linda, I sent her our previous budgets and kind of the scratch pad that I was working on for future ones. So we'll just wait to hear back from her.
Yeah, should be pretty soon.
Cool.
My last question was about, you said you're looking to get technical assistance from DOLA. I'm just curious, what is that technical assistance related to?
Oh, that's a good question. Jesse, you might know that better. I remember hearing you guys talk about it during the last meeting, but I'm not sure exactly what that was about either. Jeff just said I could remind you that he was going to talk to Greg over there.
Yeah, it may overlap with what we're applying for already. I'm not sure, but the nature of it, from what Jeff described, I think it was mostly geared towards trying to find, actual assistance of, helping to run the district and everything. Right now, one or two board members are doing a whole lot of work that normally staff would do, but we don't have any staff. And yeah, Jeff was hoping we could, kind of get some external assistance on project management and keeping district functions on track and everything like that. So I think that may kind of overlap with the funding we're applying for, but I'll let Jeff, kind of determine what he hears from Greg first before we talk about it anymore, I guess.
Nice. Okay. I'm just curious. So there's so many different versions of technical assistance. So I'm like, what does this version of it look like? But I think I recall now, I think it might be like you said, like that project management to go through the funding application. Okay. Well, that's all my questions. I think that covers everything. Jesse, if you're able to get those documents over to me, that would be great. And the LOI eventually. I'm going to just start, putting together a list of CPAs and get ready to move forward with getting some bids.
All righty. Sounds good.
Awesome. Well.
So yeah, let me switch back to the agenda. Pretty much all that's left was, scroll up here. Yeah. Any other matters that come before the board? Public commentary?
You mean business with Epic?
or no, anything else that wasn't specifically on the agenda?
Oh, I'm gonna bring up water bills.
Yeah, we do have quite a few past due, don't we?
We do. 15 accounts are past due. Maybe 14 now.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do the next step, I guess. We've already sent out account balances to all these 15, reminder that they have overdues, what the invoices numbers are. We've sent out the QuickBooks payment reminders and payment links, and I think we have to do something a little, take another step to try to get some of these bills paid. It's thousands of dollars at this point.
Right. I was thinking the final final bill, the final notice, and then send out the 48-hour disconnect notices.
Probably going to be necessary.
I'm thinking it's going to be necessary because I've talked to a couple of our community and haven't gotten much response. So,
All right. So yeah, I'll double check on the post office mailings and everything and make sure all of those have been received. But yeah, we'll probably have to take the next step.
yep, I think we should. Because, the rest of us have paid our bills on time.
Yep, it's just a fact of life. So yeah, I'll go ahead and regenerate a list of all the previous or all the past due accounts. I know a couple bills have been paid since I mailed everything out, but not very many.
Right.
So,
No.
all righty.
Okay. That was all the business I had.
Cool.
Jesse, can you send me a copy of that also?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, did I see another hand? Yeah, Marcy.
I don't know. I pushed the wrong button. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Okay. Anything else from public commentary? Pretty quiet. So I think sorry, go ahead.
I have a question. On the bookkeeping, Randy, I was just wondering, have you done reconciliations every month? Just a curiosity.
Sorry, I couldn't get my phone to unmute. I have not been receiving any documentation, so I have not had anything to reconcile. I have asked for the books and the documentation and nothing has been turned over.
It's either in the mailbox, you can log into High Plains website and download them. They're emailed to the district every month.
I have not looked at the email, no, so I have not, but I can certainly take a look at it this week.
Okay. Yeah, everything important goes to the directors at.
Okay.
Which means that the email program Titan, it will not interfere with anything that you already have, but it will send you notifications of meetings like these, meetings with CDPHE, meetings with Epic, all different kinds of meetings. That way, because I know you've been a little concerned about where all the stuff comes, but Titan is where all that stuff comes in at, including who's paid what, things like that. So Titan is an important program to have on your phone, at least.
Especially for invoices. Whenever we get an invoice, the treasurer should know that somebody needs to be paid and then cut them a check. So I've been paying a lot of the bills still, and I think it's because I'm mostly the one checking the email.
I will need to get with you, Jesse, because I was looking at that sheet and you and I had talked about the Titan app and I need to get the password so that I can log in.
Okay. Yeah, I'll get in touch with you.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
And
So,
if you need If you need any help, Randy, I'm available pretty much every day.
Thank you. I will let you know and reach out if I do.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
So if there's nothing else, I would like to make a motion to go ahead and approve the letter of intent so that we can start our engagement with Epic. Any second?
I'll second that.
Alrighty, let's call for a vote. All in favor? Marcy,
Aye.
Mia,
Sorry, I couldn't reach my button.
Randy,
Aye.
Sam, are you still on? Doesn't look like it. He said he was having connectivity issues. And
He
I vote,
probably would say aye, but we have a quorum.
yep, and I vote yes, so that's 4 out of 5. That passes.
Do you want me to close the meeting? Is that all the business that we have?
Yeah, I think that's about it.
We have a couple of new people in the neighborhood. So I don't know if we've gotten with the new buyers of 20.
No, the title company is still trying to get in touch with them.
Okay. Long as somebody's working on it.
Yeah. Yep, I'm staying on top of that too.
All right. Well, I'm trying to stay on top of it too so we don't forget. And thanks.
All right, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I second that.
All in favor? Mia,
Aye.
Randy,
Aye.
Jesse says aye.
I say aye.
Alrighty. Thanks everyone for joining us. We'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Take care, all.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.